We probably gonna get some heat from doing this one. It is from Jimmy the Giant, which we've had on the channel before, and he is talking about Ricky Gervais, aka the most hated man in Hollywood.
I thought that title belonged. Oh no, never mind. The most hated man in the UK is
James
Corden.
Corden.
Got it.
Yeah, but then again, Hollywood's probably not wanting to have with him. You know what I meant. I can't speak. I blame the drink. But Hollywood really doesn't want too much to do with James Corden anymore. But probably more so Ricky Gervais. And I think we both have predictions of what he's going to talk about. One of them happens to be one of the most viewed videos on the channel, which is his 2020 Golden Globe speech. So
I remember this says in Hollywood, so take that at face value.
Yeah, Hollywood does not represent
the world or the country.
And in the country where most of our audience is, Hollywood is seen as a curse word.
Yes.
So anyway, enough talk. You ready to go in?
Let's do it, man. I can't wait.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
I've just typed in 58,008. Turn upside down. Boobs.
Ricky might be the most unlikely superstar on Earth. He's a slightly overweight, average-looking Brit from a working-class background who somehow rose to become one of the most influential voices of our time.
It's the last time.
Ricky Gervais!
Rising to the top of Hollywood before they eventually lost control of him.
If you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and fuck off.
Today, we will explore the story of Ricky Gervais.
And one day you'll meet someone and life will be brilliant. So, nothing to feel sad about. Not yet. Mm-hmm. I think my mum liked me doing science, and in fact, when I changed, I went home for Christmas, and bless her, she'd bought me a big biology book. And I went, oh, thanks. I said, I've swapped to philosophy. And she went, what's that? And I said, it doesn't matter. I said, I'm going to be a pop star anyway. And she went, pop star is another word for junkie.
His parents, by all accounts, were good people. They clearly loved him and treated him well, but it doesn't seem as though they really believed in his ambitions.
I got into University College London, my first choice. I got all the grades I needed, and I went to do biology, and I suddenly thought, this isn't why I came to university. I came to university to join a band.
Believe it or not, that was Ricky Gervais and his 80s pop group, Siona Dancing. What?
What?
That's you?
What is Shauna Dancing?
My pop group I was in, that failed miserably. Thanks very much for bringing that up.
Somewhere in his early 20s, Ricky and his friend created a band called Shauna Dancing. Basically, it was an opportunity for Ricky to LARP as if he was David Bowie. Very quickly, they landed a record deal. I think it's important just to take a minute here and bear in mind Ricky's upbringing.
A working class teenager in a council house in a rough estate in Reading. Honestly, I grew up where it was last man standing. I used to have my mum cut my hair over a week because I couldn't go to school. So I went, haircut, fuck it, I'm not giving him that.
So they had 2 songs.
That's the most surprising thing about Ricky Gervais so far. I mean, nothing else that we know about him shocks me. But the whole pop thing.
They got a record deal. What the shit? Like, what? You know how many, like, what? During the 80s?
The 80s, yeah.
When you make or break a record deal. That's crazy. You know people wanted a record deal in the 80s?
Mm-hmm. For real.
Okay.
One was called More to Lose, and one called Bitter Heart. The first one charting at 117. The second, a phenomenal success, charting at number 79. The record label saw this as a bit of a flop.
Now it's over. I started a band and we got signed and it was over as quick as it started. My rock career was 1 year long.
It did lead him to go on to manage a band called Suede.
Oh, I did help out this band a little bit in the early years. When I told them I couldn't manage them anymore, there was no tears. They didn't beg, and that's when their career really took off.
Ricky's life really wasn't looking very spectacular. He spent a period of his time on like government assistance and benefits, and eventually in his late 20s he realized he needed to get a normal job, in which he worked every single day, sat in a boring office.
I had a feeling this news station, I think that the slogan was London's only alternative or something like that. The only problem was I didn't know what I was doing.
On XFM 104.9. It's 4:10 after the break, Oasis.
He got this job behind the scenes at this radio station, and he immediately rightly realised he didn't know what he was doing. And so I sent a tape, and it must have landed on the top of Ricky's pile of different stuff on his desk.
His was a CV at first?
Top of the pile.
Definitely, yeah. And I went, yeah, that'll do.
Because he certainly wouldn't have looked, beyond, the 5th or 6th letter from the top.
And I remember my first thought was, fuck me.
He's tall.
The first run of the Ricky Gervais show was really the first of its kind for anything like this for Ricky. He wasn't a comedian. He was just a man in his late 30s. But yet, this show was gold.
Superwoman! Are you sure they're called R.E.M.? Or have they changed that? They call it Superwoman, you tosser!
The biggest influence, the biggest single influence on my creative process. Yeah? Who cares?
I think you said your brother was the funniest person you'd ever
Growing
heard.
up, the first person you answered back to was your parents, and he answered back. He got sent to bed.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, no, he was right.
Yeah.
And I thought, they lost the argument. There was a big news story last year, right? It was about a terrible train crash. Now, the train crash had happened about a year before.
Comedy was never Ricky's first creative love. However, comedy had always played a vital role in his life.
If someone goes to the loo and they come back and they've got a patch of wee on their trousers, right? And everyone knows, and then someone says, you got a patch of wee, and they go red, I go, fuck, get me out of here. Whereas if I come out, I go, fucking piss myself again, it's done.
It was survival, you laugh at everything, it gets you over it, And a sense of humour.
Yeah,
it
and a
makes
sense
you
of-
bulletproof.
Yeah,
You don't have to pave the jungle.
Yeah.
You can just grow a pair and have a laugh about it.
But Ricky's comedy is far
That's a great philosophy to think about humor. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
It gets you through every situation. You
Yep.
know?
And I would say I would counter this in the best way possible, because you're laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're laughing. Like, man, having a sense of humor has been my bulletproof vest for my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's I agree with him 1,000,000% on that.
Yeah, that's some good philosophy there.
About it.
But Ricky's comedy is far more than just rude jokes and being like a shock jock. His comedy always was very pinned on like human observation.
I became an atheist, but not through studying theology, through body language. When I was about 8 years old, I loved Jesus. I thought it was brilliant.
And my brother, who was 11 years older than me, and he came in and he looked and he said, why do you believe in God then?
And my mum went, Bob. And I knew, she doesn't want him to say something. And I thought, why is that?
Yes, of course. It's just like Santa.
And so at XFM, things were looking very good for Ricky. And then, seemingly like all opportunities in Ricky's life, XFM got taken over by Capital Radio, and they immediately cancelled the Ricky Gervais show.
We would, just joke and riff about observations of office life. I realised Ricky was going to get me fired, so I jumped ship, joined the BBC, and while I was there, I had the opportunity to make a little training video, and I called Ricky and I said, let's do the office stuff we did. And we made this little tape, and it just came alive. Ricky's performance was electric.
Sammy, David, you old slag.
CD Boss was a pre-pilot that was made in 1998. In this, Ricky played a character called David Brent, who had this interesting personality, who saw themselves as this charismatic person everyone loved, but whose clear desperation for approval was very evident to everyone but him.
The observations felt fresh and kind of authentic, and it just began to snowball from there. The BBC did a test screening of the first episode of The Office.
What's up? Hey, what's up? I love that.
We shot it documentary style because it seemed like just the quickest way to shoot. We didn't have to do lots of clever lighting. We could kind of move fast. Right.
I was emulating those sort of quaint docu-soaps that of the 90s that I'd watched, and ordinary people get their 15 minutes of fame, and that was it exactly.
Do come on. Do you want to take a seat and come back in half an hour? Yeah. Sorry.
I believe we've got seats already reserved.
The format did exist before The Office, films like Spinal Tap. However, The Office would turn this format into one of the backbones of comedies.
Literally the greatest idea I have ever heard in my life. That idea is terrible.
You're gay.
No. I'm not gay.
Hello, mate. It's your buddy G, manager of Corrupt FM. Corrupt FM.
Corrupt FM, you know who you are. Stop being showing off in front of the camera.
Members of the public rank every show from 0 to 100 on what they think of it. And you get these figures for every single programme. The first few weeks of The Office were just terrible.
And it scored the lowest audience score ever. The only thing that was lower was women's lawn bowls.
Chance to put forward or rest on those bowls would be a good result too. Oh, like he's
Ricky and Steve.
Wow. To think that The Office almost got canceled and
Wow.
but then inspired a whole generation. In fact, a U.S. spinoff too. And I'm gonna come clean with all of y'all. I have not watched a full episode of The Office, U.S. or UK.
I have not watched UK Office. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, and I probably only got to maybe 2 seasons of the actual Office, because when that was happening, my life was just too busy.
All right.
TV and media was not consumed by this guy. I was too fast for it.
Got it. But the UK Office has been polling high when we ask what TV series do y'all want us to do next in Patreon, and voting for that should be right around the corner. So if you want us to check out the UK Office, Patreon link in the description.
Eve announced, slightly unexpectedly, that they wanted to direct. People didn't usually say that.
But what Ricky had was, because he was older, because he wasn't trying to be a performer or be a star, he was sort of invincible. Because if the BBC said, well, we're not going to let you write it and direct it and be in it, he'd be like, all right, see ya.
And so because he wasn't desperate for fame, he only really ever wanted to do the things that he wanted to do.
I knew I wanted to own my own labour and create the work. I wanted to be the writer-director. That was my biggest lesson.
Wow.
Have you got a tissue? Sorry. Have you got a tissue? What's that?
That's not mine. It's the first one I picked up.
Your mum's?
Yeah, mine are twice as big as that.
Whilst The Office was being made, the pilot had started to get around to different TV networks. And it led to Channel 4 working with Ricky Gervais on a number of projects. The 11 o'clock show, Meet Ricky Gervais. It was clear, Ricky was very funny. He was very entertaining. But it wouldn't quite be that would make him the Ricky Gervais everyone knows and loves today. It would be something else.
I will try twice hard. I really will. I know I've been complacent, and I'll turn this place around if we just say that it's not definite now, and then we can.
This one scene showed a potential in Ricky Gervais that was very unique. Like, sure, he had the ability to make you laugh, but he also had the ability to make you feel.
Every time I've cried, Adventure in the Line, David, Brent, Derek, Afterlife, every time I've cried, it's the first take, because then you feel better.
Yeah. And I think comedy can be about empathy. Comedy is often laughing at the wrong thing because you know what the right thing is. Well, the funniest person you know isn't a professional comedian.
Yeah.
It's your dad or your granddad or your uncle, because someone has to walk in the pub and you see your uncle do a second and you're laughing because you know what he's thinking.
Yeah.
And it's about empathy because you go, I know why you're laughing. You're laughing at his wig or something.
There was something about seeing this character that beforehand you sort of despised and laughed at, crying to get their job back. It was really heartbreaking.
If we're starting from now.
I think a lot of comedians, like people who had done comedy for a long time, they would almost be fearful of trying to do a scene like this. Yeah, it might come off as cringy or maybe trying to step too far out of their wheelhouse. But Ricky didn't have any pre-existing pressure on him.
And the Golden Globe goes to The Office.
At the age of 40, Ricky Gervais was an overnight success.
I meant more in the traditional way, like maybe in the early days, if that happened.
Well, I didn't do the early days. Right. My first gig, was Animals, and the first gig I did of Animals, the warm-up, I was on the front cover of the Radio Times as the most influential person in comedy, which is obviously ludicrous.
The first book of Moses, commonly called Genesis. Start at the beginning. Fairly big book, but...
When I'd won the BAFTAs and I was at the front cover of Radio Times, there's a part of me that think I should do stand-up.
Yeah.
I sort of got to prove my point here a little bit.
Do you remember the strange...
Man, before that, I just want to... It's something that's clicked with me with Ricky Gervais. Like, his humble beginnings, and like how he didn't really come from money, or it didn't really come from, an artistic background, but he still rose to the top, and there's a bit of humility to him. In there,
he was that mistake.
He was that mistake. He was the everyman's comic.
Yeah, that gets you pretty far, and definitely you feel like you know him, and that is something that resonates with everyone.
Yeah, 100%.
Strangeways riots about 10 years ago, and the prisoners were up on the roof for about 3 days, and the guards and police couldn't do anything. They were ripping the place to pieces. They were putting the tiles off, and they were just throwing it down for about 3 days. She went, "Look at them. They should be locked up."
What about something like the Newsnight review? Because that's quite intellectual. What did they make of it? Huh? The Newsnight review. What did they make of it? Ian Hislop, didn't he review it? Didn't he give it a review on TV? Did he like it? What did he make of it? He didn't like it.
A lot of the material is just so banal. After having produced a programme as funny as The Office, I cannot see why he's on stage.
You do it for yourself. That way, at least you come up with something interesting and different. I mean, if you start second-guessing people, you'll end up pleasing no one.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This quest to be popular, it's never a good thing in art. It's never a good thing. If it happens, great, right? But if you aim at it, you'll come unstuck.
And from here, Ricky's career just kept growing. His original XFM radio show came back as The Ricky Gervais Show, which became the most popular podcast of all time in 2005. The show led...
You aim at it, you'll come unstuck.
And from here, Ricky's career just kept growing. His original XFM radio...
I just wanted to pause it right here, because one, it's like a return to an old favorite here, and two, I want to confuse the hell out of whoever is generating the thumbnails here, because if they stopped here, they'd be like, wait, what time is this? What year is this?
What? They already did this.
Show came back as The Ricky Gervais Show, which became the most popular podcast of all time in 2005. The show led to him meeting Carl Pilkington. Him, Ricky, and Steve Merchant created a series called An Idiot Abroad. He wrote a successful kids book called Flanimals. The Office obviously sold to an American company and created The American Office, which became the most popular sitcom in television history.
Sorry, the Emmy goes to The Office.
And so by the 2010s, Ricky was now filthy rich, had created some absolutely iconic piece of television, an incredibly successful stand-up career, and throughout Ricky's projects we could really see his range of not only being hysterically funny, but also very insightful and incredibly deep. But you see, with all this success, and as Ricky grew in Hollywood, Ricky would start to take another role in society.
Twitter is like being able to read every toilet wall in the world. Ordinary people were getting sick of multi-millionaires telling them to recycle when everyone knew they were flying around in private jets and limos. And
as social attitudes in the last 10 or so years have kind of taken on this sort of revisionist attitude of the past.
One of the great things about The Office, by the way, a whole new generation of fans are getting into it now. We were just talking about your kids a moment ago. At what point do you introduce them to the series? Still a little young, right?
I kind of think maybe never. That show is so inappropriate. I mean,
and so there'd be this kind of cultural rift, a split between these very progressive woke people who, like Hollywood, would look at The Office as just rude, offensive, terrible, and then everyone else who would look at The Office as fun, very heartwarming, and a show that could deal in taboos in a very sensitive way. And so this split in opinion led us to the Golden Globes.
Here we go.
Oh, God.
All right, before the Golden Globes thing, I don't believe in revisionist things like that, because one, different time, different era, nobody knows what's going to be funny 10 years from now, and you shouldn't think like that.
No.
And two, like the fact that some people cannot handle the truth, and usually it's what it is censoring what is real, what is honest, and what happens to all of us. You can't protect everybody. I'm sorry.
Life is tough. You gotta deal with it. So it's just okay. That adds a whole different layer that I don't know if I was in that space yet to ingest Ricky's Golden Globes. Right? I took it as funny and it was hilarious to me, but I failed to see during that time we recorded that reaction. He was in a room talking to the people who basically wanted him gone.
Right.
That's why he just went for the jugular.
Yeah, right. He wasn't talking to the people in the room. He was talking to everybody watching at home.
Yep.
And those are the people that actually matter.
Yep.
At the end of the day.
Hello and welcome to the 77th Annual Golden Globe Awards.
Where would we be without Ricky Gervais? Did you see his opening monologue?
Put on the internet about him saying, don't virtue signal, just come out here and get your little prize, go fuck off, because nobody cares about your opinion. I was like, thank you.
Thank God for Ricky Gervais going off Sunday night to let people know that you still got a voice.
Up until this point, he'd done Golden Globes, he's hosted it a few times, always teasing and mocking celebrities, but this one felt unlike the rest.
Apple roared into the TV game with a morning show, a superb drama, a superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China.
This speech resonated with...
Saying that with Tim Cook in the room.
Man.
Mm-hmm. That's the truth, man. That's the truth. And I'm glad that, Hollywood has less of an influence now.
And I'm glad that other comedians stuck up for him.
Yeah.
Other, big time comedians.
Yeah, the Joe Rogans of the world.
Yep.
Though, yeah.
This speech resonated with so many people, and it gained Ricky a new level of prestige. He was the man who could insult the king to his face.
It's always lovely to get nominated and awarded, but if you take it too seriously, you're on a slippery slope. If you really think that you're anything special when you win an award, you just won an award, that's all.
And it's because he's always been so adamant in his own way of doing things. Him being adamant on writing and directing led him to creating his own production companies. So now he's not beholden to anyone to get a TV show made, he can do it himself.
I love awkward.
Excruciatingly awkward.
Yeah. But not in real life when it's not me. If I'm at a social occasion and everyone's laughing and someone makes a crap joke and no one laughs, I want to go. I want to go back in time and save them. I want to go, or I could go to try and just look at me. Don't look at them. I can't stand someone else being embarrassed.
You should never punch down. You should punch up. Well, who's to say what's up and down is?
Yeah.
People get offended when they mistake the subject of a joke with the actual target, and they're not necessarily the same.
We're all idiots, and what my job is to let people know it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. We're all fucking idiots, and that's great. There's nothing more joyous than not being able to stop laughing.
I really don't think Ricky makes these types of jokes to hurt people. He makes them to explore topics and to make you think, to make you feel, and most importantly, to make you laugh.
People say, how does he get away with it? Well, because I fucking think about it. I haven't gone out there drunk and said something horrendous. I've thought about that joke more than your article about it.
Yeah. Appreciation for the audience and worrying about what they think of your stuff. Two different things.
Right.
To lead the orchestra, you've got to turn your back on the audience.
I, from somewhere, had this strange, unjustified belief that it would be all right. I always thought it'd be all right. I always knew I'd do what I wanted to do, and I always have.
If you enjoyed this video,
hell yeah.
That was a beautiful quote right there. To lead the orchestra, you have to turn your back to the audience. That was beautifully put.
And it's kind of another way of saying one of my favorite phrases is people don't know what they want until you put it in front of them. And unfortunately, because we make a living creating content, we're subject to everyone and everybody's comments.
That's the benefit, and that's the biggest con. The biggest pro and the biggest con is that we reach everyone. What's the con? We reach everyone.
Right, and everybody has an opinion, and opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. We don't need to see yours.
Yep, we don't show ours.
Unless it's disrespectfully. It just makes me love Ricky Gervais even more. You can have a heart and still find humor in pretty much anything.
He's very smart. He's the everyman's guy. He carved his own path, and that is something that no one can ever take away from him. And he is his own boss, which makes him uncontrollable, which is terrifying for people that make money controlling people. So that's and you know what? Everyone found him funny. He's the everyman's comic, right? He doesn't give a shit about Hollywood. Hollywood didn't make him. The people made him.
Right. The people watching, turning on their TVs, paying the subscription fee or whatever it is. Those are the people that made him. Buying tickets to his shows, downloading the Ricky Gervais Show podcast. Those people.
Yep.
And I get a sense from Gervais is that when he makes jokes like that, it's from a sense of love. It's for caring about everybody, and that's something I relate to a lot. If I come off as a jerk, it's from a place of love. It's that I want you to be the best person you can be. You need to put your phone down and go outside instead of worrying about what two idiots on the internet say.
Yeah.
We're all idiots. Social media isn't real. Take your comment and shove it up your butt in a loving way. I still love you.
Exactly. That's exactly. We take our sign off seriously.
Exactly.
You know? And I love this. This adds another layer to Ricky Gervais I didn't know that I needed. It makes him realistic, and I like that.
Exactly.
You know?
Like you said, the everyman's comic.
Yeah.
Anyway, y'all. Thanks for watching. Stick around, subscribe, and watch another video. Yeah. What should they do now, the way you alluded to earlier?
Unplug and go do something epic.
Exactly. See y'all in the next one.
Later.
Fellas, we could be that mistake. Let's do this.